It fascinates me as you go throughout the National Football League how some teams are very quick to pull the trigger when it comes to changing head coaches, general managers, etc. And other teams really drag their feet and almost have a flat-out resistance to it or a full-on objection to it unless there is absolutely no choice whatsoever. And you see that play out every year. Like you look at some teams and you say, how the hell is this guy not fired? And you look at other teams and say, man, did you need to fire him already? Was that a little early? And I understand when it comes to talking about head coaches, they are the natural fall guy in a lot of cases, which sometimes is absolutely merited and justified. See the Jets with Adam Gase. Like, he sucks. Period. He was absolutely the appropriate fall guy. But in other cases, sometimes you look at coaches and you say, they are far from the only issue. There are other issues at play that go beyond their control. How could the GM that hired them and put them into that position ultimately still have their job, but the head coach that had to deal with the situation they were put into ultimately gets fired? That's what I don't get sometimes. And I look at this whole situation with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I really need help understanding this one. I understand when you're dealing with Philly fans, Eagles fans especially, that logic is always not the most prevalent thing out there. It just isn't. As a fan base that prides itself on being emotional and irrational and flat out sometimes stupid. And God bless them. They own it. They take every bit of it and they run with it. But it is who they are. So the first chance anything goes poorly, the first chance anything goes wrong, they're always going to be screaming, fire this guy, fire that guy. That's just the nature of the beast that comes with the territory when you're coaching in Philadelphia. Whether that's for the Eagles or whoever, but especially with the Eagles. But you got to really help me understand why Doug Pederson getting fired was the right call. Why Doug Pederson getting fired was a good thing. Why Doug Pederson getting fired was the best thing for this Eagles organization. I really need some help understanding this. Because this is a guy that, correct me if I'm wrong, has taken the Eagles to the playoffs, 3 times in the past 5 seasons? 3 times? Including winning a Super Bowl with his backup quarterback? Like, do we forget that? I know Philly fans want to dilute themselves with all this talk of Foles magic, but all that is Foles gold, and you goddamn good and well know it. Look at what he did once he left the Eagles and he went to Jacksonville and then he went to Chicago. He sucked. And yet he won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles in the playoffs. He got Nick Foles arguably to play the best football of his entire life when it mattered most. But now, after I'm sure a bad and disappointing 2020 season, Doug Pederson's the one that needs to go? Excuse the F out of me. Now you're going to point to and say, well, the offense wasn't great. That's true. There were also lots of injuries. And you can say that about other teams, and some teams better overcome them than others. And that's true. But the Eagles certainly had their fair share of injuries. You also had a situation at quarterback where Carson Wentz regressed this year, in part because of that and in other part because of him. Now, some are certainly going to take the perspective, and it appears that the Eagles organization and general manager Howie Roseman have taken the viewpoint, the stance that Doug Pederson was the problem, not Carson Wentz, and therefore Doug Pederson was the one that needed to go. And I guess my issue with that is if that's really truly the case, it can't be. It just can't be. That basically seems like, to me, the Eagles realize that they might have a challenge moving on from Carson Wentz. They don't want to totally move on from Carson Wentz. Maybe they're not totally bought, sold, and convinced on what they saw out of Jalen Hurts to close the season. And as a result, they're making a statement, they're making a stand, and basically saying either Pederson needed to go or Wentz needed to go, and they don't want to give up on Wentz, so Pederson had to be the one that was shown the door. So you basically have shown the door to a head coach that ultimately won a Super Bowl without Carson Wentz, so you could keep Carson Wentz, who gave you no indication this past season that you should have a ton of confidence in him going forward. Look, I've been a Carson Wentz fan since back he was in North Dakota State, but you have to face reality, especially the current reality. The current reality is nothing should be earned or guaranteed or given to Carson Wentz at this point because he hasn't earned it. The durability problems over the years makes it questionable how much you could rely on him. And then this past season, what you saw, yeah, you could talk about injuries and this and that, but damn it all. You're supposed to be that dude and you're getting paid like that dude. Then you need to be like that dude and help get the best out of everybody around him. And he just didn't do that. And are we making this decision because you've made a serious financial commitment to Carson Wentz? So you exacerbate one mistake by making another mistake by firing the head coach that led you to the playoffs 3 times, including winning a Super Bowl? And beyond all of that, if we're saying, okay, Doug Pederson wasn't the right guy, and he had to go, then why does Howie Roseman still have a job? Why does Howie Roseman still have a job? He's the one that hired and fired Chip Kelly, wasn't he? He's the one that's now hired and fired Doug Pederson. And if you say, well, he finally brought a Super Bowl to Philly, well, so did Doug Pederson. Like, if anything, those two should be joined at the hip. It's Howie Roseman that made the decision to make the big financial commitment to Carson Wentz. It is Howie Roseman that has sunk this Eagles team significantly against the salary cap in future years with decisions that he's made in previous years. All the while making this an incredibly unappealing option out there in the open market in relation to head coaching candidates and other openings that are available. Like, who would want to come to this job where you don't have a top 5 pick, you have the 6th pick, you have no cap space, and in fact, you're probably going to have to cut some of the pieces you already have just to be able to come into compliance with the salary cap, let alone trying to remake this roster in any way, shape, or form. You have no excess draft capital. And by the way, did I mention huge questions at the quarterback position? Is it Carson Wentz? Is it Jalen Hurts? Like, what the hell do you do there? And if you don't deal Carson Wentz and you're potentially dealing with the quarterback controversy and saga, what damn prospect in their right mind in terms of head coaching candidates would want to come to this job? Where you go somewhere like the freaking Texans, they're in a bad cap spot and they stink, but at least for the moment, you have Deshaun Watson. Or you could go to Jacksonville, where they have the number 1 pick. They're going to get a young franchise quarterback. They've got a ton of draft pick capital and they have a ton of picks. Same thing with the Jets picking 2nd. You got the Chargers out there fired Anthony Lynn. They've got Justin Herbert. They don't have the same cap concerns. Like, not only do I think it was stupid to fire Doug Pederson just from if he's not worthy of having the job, how in the fuck does Howie Roseman still have a job, considering he's the one that hired Chip Kelly, he's the one that hired Doug Pederson, and keep me honest here, I'm pretty sure he's the one that oversees the salary cap, which is a complete and total financial disaster for this Eagles organization. He's the one that made the decision to sit there and make that big commitment to Carson Wentz when he didn't necessarily have to. How does Howie Roseman still have a job? And then when you look at the competition and who you're going up against, unless you have to come way out of pocket in order to make it happen, you're not going to get a top guy wanting to take that job. Why would they? Frankly, they'd be insane to do so. And meanwhile, I sit there and look at the Chicago Bears like they're ready to keep everybody. Because they're happy the team went 8-8 and got embarrassed in the wild card round of the playoffs. Here are the Eagles just a few years ago. They're Super Bowl champions. They had a couple of years stretch of making the playoffs and won a Super Bowl. It's the first Super Bowl that team has ever won. They've lost 2 other ones that they appeared in. And now 3rd time's the charm, but Doug Pederson's the one that's shown the door? How does that make any sense? How does that make any sense for organizations like the Bears? How do you reward mediocrity like you consistently do when you see a team like the Eagles firing guys that actually win championships? And for the Eagles fans that are sitting there certainly going to say that he was the problem and he had to go, okay, what next? You want to wait another 50 plus years to win a world championship? And maybe you'll be disappointed because you say, hey, this team didn't win the division in a really down year in the NFC East. Yeah, they didn't. You're absolutely right. But that doesn't automatically mean that you fire the head coach. Furthermore, if we want to keep it real here, some of you are probably going to be pissed off, or certainly fans of other teams, notably the Giants, are going to be pissed off at what he pulled in Week 17. Talk about Pederson when he benched Hurts. How the hell do you know that edict didn't come down from Howie Roseman? How do you know that Doug Pederson wasn't sitting there towing the company line, and then once the blowback and reaction came, he became the frickin' fall guy? Do you really truly think that Doug Pederson 1,000% did that from his own volition? If anything, he probably got tired of being told what the hell to do. Like, wasn't it the situation he had over the Mike Gross scandal or saga, whatever the hell you want to call it, as offensive coordinator, whether he should fire him or not? And he probably got tired of being told what the hell to do. And as far as Howie Roseman goes, like, look at the situation you put your team in. How the hell can you still justify having your employment if Doug Pederson's the one to be shown the door? That's what I'm having trouble understanding. That's what I'm struggling to comprehend here. And maybe Eagles fans can clue me into some Philly-related gossip that I'm not in the loop for and I'm not aware of. But if I'm Doug Pederson, I'm thankful I got the hell out of Philly before it became a real disaster. Save your brand while you can. You'll either get another immediate opportunity as a head coach this year, or you can take a year off, be somebody's offensive coordinator in 2021, and then somebody will certainly come knocking on your door. You know, because coaches that win Super Bowls don't grow on trees. This is a guy that's had some level of success. Just because it ended badly in Philly doesn't mean he's not going to get another chance. For Christ's sakes, Chip Kelly got fired unceremoniously from Philly, which at that point in time he clearly deserved to. And even he got an opportunity very quickly to be the 49ers head coach for at least a year. Sometimes firing is the right way to go, and sometimes you need that type of change. But sometimes as an organization, you should be careful what you wish for. And in this particular case, I think Eagles fans should be very careful what they wish for. Because you might think the head coach being gone solves everything, but the GM that made the investment in Wentz that has put you in that horrendous position in terms of the salary cap still remains. So how much has really been fixed and how much real accountability has been set for that organization?